Oh my god, I already have a backstory. Do you want to hear my backstory?
Yeah, I want to hear your backstory.
So, okay, right. So my name's sorry, one sec. My name's Charles Winchester. I've been in the forces for 45 years. I started one case and it never finished. It was all about a dead dog. I never knew who killed it. But actually, the moral of the story is when you get to the end, it finds out that he actually killed it himself. So I've kind of spoiled it. But anyway, this is the origin story. Sound good?
That sounds brilliant. I love it.
I mean, have you got a backstory?
You said I'm a black guy, right?
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
So I'm going to avoid this just so nothing accidentally racist pops out. You know, I don't want to say anything that could be condoned as racist, so we're going to avoid that at all costs.
All right.
I'm a policeman. Okay. I like shooting bad guys.
Okay.
That's a good one. Nothing racist there.
What's your name?
Derek?
Okay.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? And welcome back to DrumForestDrum Gaming. It has been a long time. I have been away, and we are back with a brand new series called Is It Worth It? The basis of this series is we take a game of £20 or less, and we basically give our verdict on whether it's worth it. We give the game a good couple of hours of gameplay, and we'll let you know our decisions. Today, joining me is my special guest and good friend on the YouTube scene, MasterOfNothing. How's it going, Masters?
It's good, thanks. That was the best intro. I did not expect that. It was really good.
Oh, it's got to be exciting, man. This new series.
I'm buzzing. I'm buzzing. This is going to be awesome.
I've been away for a long time, sorting my house. I've been really excited to get to this, and I'm really excited to get it started, you know.
Let's go. Let's go then. Let's get started. Let's talk about this.
The first game in this series is a little game called RICO. R-I-C-O, for anyone who is unsure on how to spell that or wants to look at it. Now, me and Masters have just spent a good, 2.5 hours playing this game?
Yeah, probably about that. I mean, playing it pretty straight, and it's a good game. I'm liking it so far.
Yeah, I would say I'm quite enjoying it. So let's start off. A quick brief of the game, guys, is effectively a buddy cop game. It's two of you. I don't think you can have more than two. I didn't look at that bit. And you have a case, like a crime case. And you and your friend go from room to room, shooting through doors and basically taking down henchmen and working your way to the big bad at the top.
Yeah, so, I mean, you've got two cops. You can pick your characters and you basically go for each and every level, which will be part of a bigger case, taking down, like, drug lords or taking down assets or finding evidence to go against basically the final level. And it builds up over time. Must be about I would say maybe 10 or 15 cases overall, and they'll vary in difficulty, won't they? But it's almost like you've got 24 hours in-game hours to bust this case. So you have to be really quick, straight on it, and there'll be lots of different situations along the way, such as taking assets out, opening and taking out the whole building, or maybe, what was the other one? Disarming bombs was one of them.
You walk into a room, there's a bomb suddenly there, and then it will suddenly like, okay, you got 5 bombs to disarm in the next 2 minutes, and you have to quickly run from room to room, killing enemies and getting rid of those bombs.
And I've got to say that is probably the most stressful part of this game, but that's what makes this game kind of really different. I'm really enjoying that element of it.
Yeah, no, that did make it a lot more intense, because when I first went into this, I thought it was it gave you your situations at the top. You're in the top left, it tells you sort of what you got to do, and I thought, oh, that's it, okay, easy. And then suddenly, as you're going through, it's just adding more and more and giving you time limits, and you're suddenly thinking, okay, I'm getting stressed here, you know, you're losing health, there's enemies coming after you, reinforcements coming after you, and it gets pretty stressful. We did die a few times.
Yeah. So it's built around like a permadeath. So if you get revives, but you have to purchase these revives with merits, like you purchase your weapons and everything else that you can get within the game. But if you run out of those revives and you can't revive your teammate, that person's gone. That's it. It's game over. And when your whole team is down, the case is closed, and you have to go all the way back to the beginning, start over again, basically almost like 2 new cops. So it's kind of interesting. It kind of raises the point that you really can't mess this up, and that's where you kind of have to work with the co-op side of it, work really closely together, and actually communicate, which we didn't do very good at actually at the very beginning, but at the end, I think we pretty much nailed it, which was really good.
I will agree on that, definitely. So this is a game that is published and developed by Rising Star Games and Ground Shatter. Now, I personally can't think of anything I know of off the top of my head that these guys have done, but I feel like they've done a good job on this.
Yeah, I would say that Rising Star I've never actually heard of before. I know they've done some like smaller indie titles, but I think this is probably their most polished looking game from the ones that I've seen. I mean, yeah, they've done a really good job, and actually for like, you know, for this whole what we're doing, you know, £20 to find a game, I think this is kind of one of those ones that's probably going to place quite highly for me.
Definitely. Would definitely agree on that one. So, now we're talking about polish. What's your verdict on some graphics over here?
Oh, wow. I mean, it reminds me of Borderlands. So it's a cel-shaded kind of style. It's pretty slick. It's quite simple. And I think that works really well for when you're playing, because it's quite fast paced. So you don't have to focus on all the detail. You can just go in there and do what you know. You know what your enemies look like. You know the things that you need to look for, like your briefcases and your evidence and all that stuff. And I think that really kind of ties really well together. So yeah, really nice. Actually quite colourful, even though you are going through like offices and warehouses. It looks good.
Yeah, I'll agree on that. There were a few graphical glitches we came across, nothing major, just sort of bodies getting stuck in walls and glitching around and stuff, so that was always entertaining when that happened. But you know, there was nothing, we didn't find anything game breaking. I think the one thing we found was which luckily wasn't game breaking, but it told us one of our missions was to pick up money, and then it put a pile of money behind something and we just couldn't get to it. Luckily they overstock on the money, but it was still one of those things you look at and think, you know, if you didn't overstock on the money, we would have been stuffed here and we couldn't have finished this. But
I think that there's an element there where this game is, so the maps that you step into are procedurally generated. So as this is actually kind of a new game, there's probably a lot of fixes that will come out to resolve things like that. But I think by having to place items within a procedurally generated area, placing your enemies and all that stuff, some things are going to go wrong, so you kind of almost have to give it a pass for that.
Yeah, no, I'll agree on that one. I mean, this game literally was released on the 14th of March. So, as we're recording this, 16 days ago? Less than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think I'll give them a pass on that one. I'll agree on that one. And
cool.
Let's talk about gameplay a little bit.
I loved it. It was funny. So, I don't think I've played anything quite like this before. There's some really kind of realistic kind of SWAT games, but they've turned this into almost quite light-hearted, but with a really serious kind of with that permadeath element. And you can kind of just fly through the game, and I feel like if we finish that game, or when we've failed and we've lost both of our cops and we come back round, it's totally new. You learn from your mistakes. It doesn't. I wouldn't say it's like a Dark Souls kind of feel to it, but it's very much a roguelike, I'd say. You have to learn by your mistakes. You have to work together. I really like the way it's played.
I felt it handled pretty well. It's your typical FPS shooter. I feel it handled pretty well. It felt quite fast though, if you know what I mean. It felt so smooth that it was almost too smooth, if that makes sense. Like you would move your mouse and suddenly you felt quite jolted when you moved. So that took a bit of getting used to. There was one thing which we found, and that was it has this awesome little feature where you can slide. So as you're breaking down doors, if you want, you can run at it and slide through this door and shoot as you're sliding. Awesome. Wicked feature. Made you feel so cool, especially when you're doing it together. One issue which I had with it, and Masters, you'll probably agree with me on this, is that the slide function it happens when you just crouch, but it happens whether you're running or just walking normally. So you would walk up to a door, go to crouch to get ready, and you'd accidentally end up sliding through it and just completely mess up the whole plan. And I felt that one was something that maybe they need to look at and tweak a bit, so maybe you only slide while you're running or something like that, just to try and separate it a little bit.
So that's one thing that I really picked up, is that there isn't actually really any explanation on how to play the game. When you load into each level, yeah, it'll give you a little bit of a tip, but it's almost like it assumes you know. So the first time we ended up sliding in through these doors in slow motion, by the way, we haven't mentioned that, you know, when you kick those doors open together in co-op, it slows down time, you get almost a bullet time kind of feel. We're walking up to a door, we're not sprinting, we're just walking up to a door, go to crouch like one over the other so we don't shoot each other, and I'll just fly through the door. And we've already started this like engagement totally unprepared, and it can sometimes go really horribly wrong considering like the kind of rooms that you can go into with like 20 guys.
One other thing, and this is a minor thing, but at the same time it's quite a major thing. It shows you where all the buttons are mapped for this game in the settings, but you cannot change them. You cannot change any of the buttons. So you've got things like crouch is C, shift is run, but there's no jump in this game. So what you'd usually use spacebar for isn't being used for anything. Now I really felt that mapping crouch to spacebar just would have been a lot more comfortable rather than going for C. I know it's a tiny movement, but I just feel it could have made that bit of a difference. And you know, when you're gaming, you like to be comfortable, and I really felt that they need to implement that. I feel like, yes, it's a new game, but I feel like remapping control systems, especially for an FPS, is something that should be off the bat.
See, I wouldn't say that was a huge issue, both because by the time that you've gone through 3 or 4 missions, you start to remember it, and it starts to become almost like memory. It's, you know, muscle memory, you've got it. But it would be nice to do something like when you slide, yeah, you press the space button and you would slide, for instance, because it would totally separate everything, and it would stop all the issues that we kind of came across where it got really frustrating when we'd enter a room without meaning to do it, or kick a door open when, you know, all the buttons are quite tightly close together, like E's to kick down a door, R's to reload, you know, WASD to move around. But then you've also got Q, which we only found out until like the very end game that swaps your weapon out. So we would go into a room, we'd empty our magazines, and then we'd have to reach up to think which button is it to get the next gun out. Turns out there's a quick swap button right there, and we kind of stumbled across it. And it's these little things that if they kind of told us, mainly like the tutorial, which is almost a training level, if they walked you through it there, which they don't, or if they actually gave you some more insight into actually how to play the game like to your best of like quality, I would say, you know, that would probably make the game a lot better.
Let's look at customization. So there's a little bit of customization in this game. You've got a few characters. I didn't look at all of them, to be perfectly honest. I kind of just went in with the character and just went through it. Masters did mention that there was customization when we first started, but I completely forgot about it because I didn't have anything unlocked, so I completely forgot. But then when we got to the end and I was sort of looking at character customization, there was a few things you can add to your character, which I thought is pretty cool, and they do sort of different things.
Yeah, so you've got your characters are, you know, kind of just skins, so there's nothing really to them. You can just pick one that's kind of you fancy the most. You've then got your weapons that you can customize, but then you've got your people that you can customize with like almost like little perks or skill sets. And when you level up, there's a really kind of basic, kind of simplified leveling up system. So you get to like level 2, level 3, level 4, and you'll get a new perk which you can apply to your person. And it'll be something like when you slide, you do it faster, but you also do 25% more damage. Or when you are, I think one of them, which I really liked, is hip firing. So you do a lot of hip firing, and you're like 20% more accurate just from firing at the hip, or you do more damage from firing at the hip, or something like that. And I mean, that was quite cool. The other kind of customization side was also the weapons, and I got quite confused by this actually. I think not knowing what items go with which weapons initially until you know your weapons, that kind of got a bit frustrating at the very beginning. I know that you were like, I've got a flashlight, I can apply this to this gun. Hang on, I bought this flashlight with the merits I've been given, which are finite. You don't get loads, so you have to make these kind of strategic choices how you want to play. I've bought a flashlight for something that I don't even know, and it's those little things that make you go, oh, okay, that was quite frustrating. I've now wasted my money where I could have bought some armor or bought some health or something like that.
Yeah, because when you're playing the game and you can buy the new guns, it's a random assortment, isn't it? We think.
Yeah, it was really weird actually. So we'd come out of the game, you would go into, you were successful at XYZ, you know, you get some merits, and these are these points that you can spend, and it might be 6 merits to get a different pistol or a shotgun. And every single time we had different weapons that popped up. So I'd be like, I love shotguns. So if I had the opportunity to have a shotgun, I'd go and grab that. And all I've got is a Magnum. And I'm thinking, actually, you're probably better off with the shotgun. Can I swap? And you can't. You have to wait until almost it comes around. Almost like it's almost like a roulette, really. It's a gamble that you hope that you get kind of the guns that you want to get. I seem to remember that health was a thing where health and armor sometimes didn't even appear at all, or revives.
Yeah.
So you can only buy 2 revives, and that's more than enough. But when you use them up and you come back into this lobby, sometimes they're not there, which means you're going into a mission knowing that you have to be incredibly careful and that you can't use any more revives, because if you do, it's game over.
Okay, so let's quickly talk about dislikes. So my biggest issue and something I disliked was the sliding mechanic. I loved it, but I disliked the way they implemented it, as we found ourselves just sliding through doors all the time when we didn't want to, and it got it got a bit annoying because it would really ruin our plans.
I think for me, the one dislike that I'd probably say I really had for this game was it just didn't explain an awful lot. It almost was just trial by fire. I don't think it intentionally means to do that. I think it's just something that's not been implemented yet, or maybe it was forgotten about. But any sort of tutorial, not saying I need a tutorial, saying any sort of understanding of how to actually play the game, like make the best of the situations, or how grenades might work, or how customization might work, or how to make most out of your character, like that kind of thing, I think would be really useful. But it just doesn't exist whatsoever, except for when you're loading in.
But overall, I'd say I liked it. It was good fun. It was good fun. It felt fairly smooth. There were just a few things, as we said before. It looked pretty nice, to be fair. It's obviously not a big budget game. It's obviously quite an indie title. As I said, I've never really heard of Ground Shatter or Rising Star games, but it's a fairly nice looking game. I like cel shaded graphics and things, and so I was pretty happy with that. And yeah, the actual just idea behind it, just the whole premise of it, just 2 guys kick down doors, shoot everyone, I thought was just simple and fun. They didn't try to overcomplicate things. They didn't try to go, oh yeah, you've got so much to do, there's so many different kinds of buttons. It was just like, kick down door, shoot some bad guys, keep moving. And I really liked the simplicity of it. Okay, so that begs the final question then, Masters. Is it worth it?
Oh, so it is currently on Steam for $17.99. You'll have to translate that into dollars, wherever that may be. I would say it is, actually. I feel that there's a few more features that could make this game better. This game has online local co-op, it has split screen, actually quite a few Steam achievements which were quite entertaining. It's got full controller support, and actually I could probably spend another 2, 3, 4 hours just playing with people online. If you're playing this on your own, I wouldn't really suggest it. I'd say you definitely have to be doing this as a co-op. It is a buddy cop game. You have to do it with someone else. You have to do it with someone that you can have some fun with, shout, scream at each other, and really get into the game together. So yeah, I would say it's worth it if you've got someone that wants to put as much time as you want to put in it.
Yeah, I'd definitely agree with that. $17.99, if you're playing this on your own, I would say is not worth it. If you were just to play this on your own, I'd say you wouldn't want to spend more than a tenner at best. But yeah, if you've got someone to play with, it's a hell of a good time. As we've said, like me and Masters, the last couple of hours have had a hell of a lot of fun. It was good. It was a novel idea. It was a nice little game, We thoroughly enjoyed it. Right, guys, so that is our verdict on RICO. If you got someone to play it, definitely worth it. If you're on your own, we'd say probably go for something else, guys. But overall, we had a bloody good time. So that's going to wrap it up for the first episode of Is It Worth It? If you've liked what we've seen, if you've got any comments, if you've played this game, let us know what you thought down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, drop a like, ring that notification bell. There will be a link down to Master's channel in the description below, so make sure you go check him out. If I'm not mistaken, he's going to have a little bit of the actual gameplay footage of us on his channel, if I'm not mistaken. So go check him out, that'll be great. If you've got a game that you want us to review that's £20, $20, €20, 20 of whatever your currency is or less, let us know and we will look into it and most likely review it. The weirder the better, I would say.
Absolutely. That was fun.
It was fun. Right, guys, so I'm going to say bye. Thank you for joining me today, Masters.
No worries. Anytime.
And I will catch you all next time, guys. Take it easy, everybody.
Yeah, take care.